at this moment suddenly applying to leave the city. There must be a problem. I even suspect he is trying to escape. Facing the unanimous gaze of everyone in the meeting room, Minister Shen reorganized his language. He believed that Xian had made a great contribution this time and deserved recognition. However, he knew that one must face the consequences of their actions. Xian's concealment of his powers represented a hidden threat. Therefore, Minister Shen wanted to propose questioning him. Upon hearing that it is questioning, the expressions on everyone's faces finally softened a bit. So it turns out it's not interrogation. I thought Minister Shen was going to take advantage of the situation. Sitting in the middle of the conference table is the chairman of the Executive Council, Xin Zhongsu, who also felt a bit strange. Curious about Xian's purpose of leaving the city, he looked at the professors next to him. He inquired about their current research on Xian power. Is there any result? The professors were also unable to make any speculations about it. At the crucial moment of the incident, all of their people withdrew. No one witnessed the specific performance of the single unit dealing with the mental monsters. They only knew that there was a mental explosion of nearly magnitude 3000. In the discussions of the crowd, Jing Chen spoke up. The purpose of the single unit leaving the city should not be to escape. I am confident about this. So far, every task that single unit participates in, there is no violation in any aspect throughout the process. Jing Chen believes that being overly cautious toward Xian is actually a very dangerous thing. Speaking of that, she gazed at the crowd. If single unit forcibly leaves the city, we probably won't be able to stop it. I agree. Where is single unit now? Professor Bai, who has been silent all along, spoke up first. Jing Chen dialed the phone of Xian, who is in the security department. The phone rang with Jing Chen's strong voice. I saw your application report. Do you want to leave the city? Jing Chen advised him not to go, because Xian is going after that night order. They have conducted a preliminary investigation and found out that the other party has at least 3 power users. The first person is Ran Qin. Specific power of this person is unknown, but suspected to have a similar clone ability. Possibly even has the power of regeneration. Secondly, it's Puppet Classic Power User. Previously, he had controlled mind-altered individuals. He fired a multiple-barreled Gatling gun at our convoy. The tactics were extremely brutal. There is one more. He is the instigator of the special pollution incident that has affected the entire second satellite town this time. It has not been determined whether he used a certain pollution source or developed his own power. However, it can be proven that the spiritual level of this person is much higher than that of an ordinary power user. Because Xian was recruited by her not long ago, she hasn't even completed basic training and lacks experience in dealing with power users. Jing Chen thinks that it would be very dangerous to go out and chase after them. Xian fell silent for a moment after listening. I really do not have experience in dealing with other power users. However, they should also have no experience dealing with me. Jing Chen's expression also appeared somewhat tense after listening. Tell me, what is the real reason you want to go out and chase them? Xian stared at the red moon hanging in the sky outside the window. Isn't this what you said? No matter who it is, if someone does something wrong, they must pay the price. Xian's words full of justice make the atmosphere over there in the meeting room a bit strange. Jing Chen, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly asked Xian if they had heard about the reward. Countless eyes immediately turned to look at Jing Chen, thinking that they were discussing such an important topic. Why bother with such trivial matters as offering rewards? Jing Chen's inquiry made Xian a bit flustered. Provide a logical and powerful explanation immediately. Only quietly add in the end about the reward. That's something to discuss later, isn't it? Notice the change in Xian's voice. Jing Chen's suspended heart finally let go. Mr. Su also nodded with a smile at this moment. The application was ultimately approved by Jing Chen. She asked Xian to provide a rough date and stated that it was a necessary work process. It may take 10 days. To everyone's surprise, Jing-chen thought it was too long and Xian quickly explained himself. He mainly didn't understand the road conditions outside the city and was worried about wasting time during tracking. Unbeknownst to him, his response left everyone in the meeting room speechless. Jing-chen asked Xian to wait for a moment and then hung up the phone. The people in the meeting room immediately started discussing. Is he always so boastful about chasing and solving 3 power users within 10 days? Faced with these doubts, Jing-chen only responded that she has never seen him bragging. The people in the meeting room looked a bit nervous or excited and turned their attention to Professor Bai. Professor Bai put forward 2 opinions. Starting from today, the confidentiality level of the single unit's data file is adjusted to grade A. It is not allowed to be leaked. In the future, accessing his information or inquiring about him will require approval from 2 or more senior executives in Qingyang City. The first nod of agreement came from Mr. Su, the most influential person in Qingyang City. Secondly, for this application, we must provide full support to the single unit. This support extends beyond just material resources and includes our attitude. These words seem to be directed at Minister Shen. After a period of silence, Minister Shen eventually slammed the table in agreement. The gecko on the side curiously asked who Xian was just talking to on the phone. Xian didn't hide anything either. He just said he was applying to go on a business trip outside the city with Miss Chen. The gecko was suddenly alarmed. Bro, have you gone crazy? Only a fool would leave the city. The area outside the city is nothing compared to our city walls. No proper food to eat. Everyone wants to stay within the city. And you are volunteering to go out. Xian was a bit annoyed by what the gecko said. The phone in his hand rang again at this moment. Jing-chen efficiently stated that they would have a meeting summary. This time, leaving the city. Treating it as a special operation mission. The mission was classified as Grade A. In addition to necessary transportation and information support. She also arranged 2 investigation teams and 1 logistics team for Xian. Xian interrupted before she finished speaking. No need. The personnel of those teams you mentioned don't need to be arranged. Xian thought for a moment as he watched the gecko lying by the window, whistling like a gangster. He then told Jing-chen that he only needs a driver. He hopes to have a high-performance car, 10 days' worth of food and water, and a driver who is familiar with him and has self-defense capabilities. Although the sentences do not mention gecko directly, they all imply gecko. Jing-chen would not fail to understand. He can directly inquire whether the driver mentioned is a gecko. Yes, it's him. Xian did not deny it either. The gecko, who was focused on watching the girl by the window, suddenly turned its head. Is the gecko still listening nearby now? Jing-chen's voice seemed to carry a hint of laughter. Let Xian directly tell Gecko to get prepared. Wait a moment. Gecko suddenly rushed over and yelled loudly into the phone. What does it mean to ask me to prepare directly? Did I agree? Did you forget to ask for my opinion? But the call had already been hung up. Xian comforted him. Haven't you always wanted to come over to my house? This is just the right opportunity. The gecko here is still putting up a tenacious resistance, indicating that he agreed to be recruited in order to make some money and marry 3 wives in the future, not to die. 17 repeated the words she overheard without missing a single one and told Xian, Brother, that guy is making a phone call. He looks very scared. He is saying bad things about you now. Should I teach him a lesson? Ha ha. On the other end of the phone, there have been several people who have taken turns. Some are preaching to him seriously, while others seem to be threatening him. But this guy is not swayed by either persuasion or coercion. He is saying that he would never leave the city even if he jumps from the 4th floor. In the end, Jing-chen promised the gecko, if able to cooperate with Xian to complete the task. When he comes back, arrange a training task in main city for him. By then, Cui Tai will also go. Gecko then readily agreed. walking towards Exion with a joyful heart. Headquarters has already made the decision. Let's form a special operations team with just the two of us. I am the vice captain. You are the captain. We are expected to depart in half an hour. Gecko doesn't know the title of vice captain of this single unit team. It will be a capital asset he can boast about for the rest of his life in the future. 17 pointed at the gecko next to him. Is this human going with us too? Can we treat him as a toy? Exion doted on his little sister despite attempts to dissuade her. Our first important principle for leaving the city this time. It is not allowed to harm him. At the very least, try not to harm him as much as possible. Exion reached out and felt the air, which was about knee-high. The gecko's eyes are almost popping out. Bro. Although I don't know who you are talking to, is the word. As much as possible. Serious? The preparation work of the Department of Special Circumstances is proceeding as swiftly as ever. A tall modified vehicle has been driven to the Security Department building. Gecko is going over the list, and there are so many supplies that even Exion is amazed. Besides survival essentials, there are various weapons, currency, and 3 serious magazines for entertainment. What excites Gecko the most is this vehicle. At first glance, he can tell that this is a police-grade modified off-road Hummer specially designed by the research team. High chassis, big rear end, V10 naturally aspirated engine, bulletproof glass, and a heavy-duty 6-barrel rotary machine gun. This steel behemoth of a Hummer even makes Gecko feel like it can fly. After loading the supplies, the two of them got into the vehicle. Exion asked Gecko if he needed to let his family know before leaving. It was then revealed that Gecko is all alone, with no one to care for him except Linda. They can just leave the city directly. Exion asked Gecko to go to Moon Terrace before leaving the city to pick up his family. The light of the red moon shone upon the earth. Only one household was still lit in the old building. The car quickly arrived downstairs. His mother had been waiting here. Gecko felt a bit nervous and asked Exion if he needed to go upstairs to pick him up and help carry some luggage or something. Exion, on the other hand, smiled at Gecko. No need. They have already gotten in the car. We can leave now. Looking through the rearview mirror, staring at the empty back seat, eventually, still swallowed a gulp of saliva. Silently started the car. Driving halfway, he couldn't help but start chatting. Hello, uncles, aunts, and sisters. I'm Gecko. I'm a good friend of Single Unit. Nice to meet you. I'm sure you must be happy to know me too. Ha. Don't be so polite. This startled Exion. Clearly invisible, yet trying to chat with family. This is really a first. Mom covered her mouth and chuckled elegantly. The young man is nice, just talks a lot. Should we consider having his mouth sewn shut by his sister? The vehicle passed over the iron cable suspension bridge, and then it drove out of the second satellite town. 17, who was sitting on the rooftop, looked excited. Beyond the wall is a chaotic wilderness, where many lunatics and wanderers roam outside the city. Exion, who grew up in the second satellite town since childhood, set foot on his journey out of the city for the first time. The gecko responsible for driving chatted with Exion's family all the way. Let me guess. Right now, Uncle must be sitting on the left in the back seat. Auntie is sitting on the right, and the cute little sister is sitting in the middle, am I right? You guessed wrong. Looking at the gecko, who is very nervous. Exion did not tell him. The father couldn't bear the boredom and misery along the way. He is not in the car now. Looking at the information provided by the Department of Urban Defense. Not very useful. Tracking by the Department of Urban Defense. It can be considered a failure. The data shows that 2 agents tracked Ranchin, who was staying in an abandoned high-rise building. After that, the agents lost contact and their fate is unknown. Now the investigation team can only track down that abandoned town. Exion suggests going over to take a look first. At the same time, check if the investigation team has any new clues. They have been on the run for a whole day. If we want to catch up, we need to maintain a very high speed. Gecko grinned when he heard it, and couldn't wait to show Xian. Bro, look at this. We are the Spider Classic people. When we get our hands on something we can control, how powerful can it be? He only shifted down a gear. With a sudden stomping on the gas pedal, a loud whoosh sound was heard. The engine roared like a wild beast. The sudden acceleration caused the car to fishtail. 17, who was singing on the car roof, was also thrown out. The road was full of potholes, and difficult to drive on. With the Gecko's agile handling, the car still maintained exceptionally stable and fast movement. It was like flying at full speed. Xian, who didn't have time to react, saw through the rearview mirror that his sister was angrily catching up. Damn. 17, who was speeding towards them, had eyes blazing with anger. Looks like he is ready to tear the Gecko apart. The car only took 20 minutes to reach the abandoned town 30 miles outside of Qingyang City. The once tall buildings, now covered in overgrown weeds. At first glance, it gives people a sense of panic and gloominess. Just stop the car. 2 armed soldiers ran out immediately, handing a document to the Gecko, acting on behalf of the Department of Urban Defense, sharing real-time intelligence with you all. When they arrived here at 4 a.m. this morning, they lost contact with those 2 agents. Initial investigation indicates that the other party had stayed on the tall building for at least half an hour. Based on the tire tracks and road conditions left around, it can be confirmed that the other party is a team of 7 people, with 5 motorcycles and 1 SUV. They fled south. Due to the complex terrain, it is currently impossible to determine their exact route. Gecko frowned as he looked at the little information he had in his hand. It might be difficult to find the people. At this moment, the mother sitting in the back suddenly spoke. She pointed in a direction to Xian. Walk down the road on the left side. Facing Xian's puzzled expression, the mother just smiled gracefully. Since we are going to visit someone, how can we not even know where the person is? They wanted to see you before. I also saw him. Xian quietly took out a small notebook and recorded the people his mother had seen. He repeated it to the Gecko in the direction his mother indicated. This surprised the Gecko. Bro, you also understand tracking and investigation. I don't understand. But I have family to help me. Xian's honest answer made his mother in the back seat smile with happiness. The off-road vehicle roared wildly, speeding along this rough road. At critical moments, Mom always points out the direction. This speed has been maintained for more than 2 hours. Still, their traces have not been found. It can be seen that after the other party succeeded, they chose to escape immediately without stopping for a moment. Gecko determined from this that the knights around them were not the ones from the Qingyang City. The gathering points and activity areas of the knights around Qingyang City are basically under their control. And these few individuals have been walking outward all along, indicating that their base is not nearby. Gecko suspects that it is highly likely that they were hired by other groups associated with the wall, specifically to cause trouble in Qingyang City. The off-road vehicle continued to drive across the vast wilderness. Gecko also hummed a song in the car. Unknown whether attracted by the singing or the engine noise, a crazy person with a decaying body suddenly rushed over, eyes filled with madness. However, facing this steel behemoth, with just a swoosh, the body that was crushed and rolled over instantly scattered into pieces. Xian really couldn't stand it anymore. Curiously asked why he kept singing. Because you're not chatting with me either. Singing helps me stay awake. Thinking the Gecko had been driving for hours, Xian kindly wanted to take over for him. Who would have thought the Gecko, with a strong will to survive, refused outright? He was afraid that he would no longer be of use. He would be discarded by Xian's family. 17 at the back of the car suddenly caught a scent and slowly revealed an excited expression. Raising its little head, it stared intensely out the window. Its eyes lit up in an instant. At this moment, the Gecko also covered its mouth and nose. What is this smell? The strong smell of blood wafted in from outside the car. Mom smiled lightly. Found it. Right there. Gecko shone the car lights in the direction where the smell of blood was coming from. Then he got out of the car with Xian. Initially, he guessed it might be wild dogs or something. Gecko raised his hand and fired a shot into the overgrown grass. With a gunshot, the grass shook for a moment. Vaguely, they could feel many alert eyes on them. The fierce wolves were staring at them. Gecko frowned and reminded Xian to be careful. There are all sorts of things in the wilderness. Yet he found Xian still as calm as ever. Facing the unknown fear lurking in the waist-high grass, his face remained indifferent. Gecko's inner murmurs revealed that he seemed more like a novice. The two of them pushed aside the wild grass. The wild dogs around stared at them intently. The smell of blood wafted from the scattered chunks of flesh on the ground. It should be human internal organs. And there is more than one. The means by which puppet classic power user transforms people are so terrifying. Xian and Gecko, who came following the scent of blood, saw the internal organs of a person abandoned on the ground. What struck them as strange was that there were only internal organs around, without any other limbs. Xian immediately thought of the puppet classic power user from the Night Order. His signature move is controlling and transforming human minds. And these organs on the ground are left behind by the altered human production. From the dissecting report provided earlier by the Research Institute, those altered humans only retain the brain and heart in their bodies. The rest has all been removed. This time he lost a lot of altered people in the second city, so he needs to fill them up. Only special fabric found inside the wall can be seen here. Xian already has the answer in his heart. He allowed Gecko to report to main city. Our two missing agents have been found. Looking at the bright red ground, Xian felt suppressed. They are our own people. Let's take them back. If we bury them on the spot, they will be dug up by the surrounding beasts. Gecko was also stunned after listening. The two of them just looked at each other. In the end, it was Xian who spoke first. He first deliberately pointed out the difference in their positions. Then, in the capacity of the team leader, he ordered Gecko, the deputy team leader, to collect the vital organs of the special agent. Gecko, looking helpless, endured the discomfort and carried out the order. After finishing his task, he couldn't help but lean against the car and start vomiting. While waiting for Gecko to finish vomiting, Xian looked towards a distance. That should be the place. The mother in the car also smiled in that direction. Sitting slumped in the driver's seat, Gecko asked Xian weakly. He really couldn't figure out how Xian found these two colleagues. Xian pointed towards the pitch-black front. I not only found the colleagues, but those people shouldn't be far either. At first, the Gecko was a bit skeptical. It was not until opening the map of the wilderness that he had to admire Xian. Brother, are you really a spider classic or a fortune teller? Follow the direction pointed by Xian. The Gecko saw a red-marked area on the map. It's Blackwater Town. His tone also began to become serious. If those people are really hiding in Blackwater Town, it would be a bit troublesome. Blackwater Town is one of the larger gathering places for wanderers around Qingyang City. It is also one of the largest black markets in the area. In the initial stages of the disaster, there were quite a few oil reserves there. They should have been sold out by now. However, the reputation remains. It has become a place where many people exchange goods. If the knights run to that place, we need to make necessary preparations. The armed forces in that rundown place might soon rival our city guard patrol. Gecko gave Xian a detailed introduction to how the people in Blackwater Town usually behave on the surface. They appear to listen to and cooperate with the wall city's orders. However, in reality, many townspeople or caravans have been quietly taken out by them. And they only have 2 people. Yet there are many supplies in their vehicle. In their eyes, this is definitely an easy target. Although the words, Qingyang City, carry some weight, Gecko still decided to report to headquarters just to be safe. The administrative office quickly received Gecko's report. The 2 missing agents have been found. They have already sacrificed. Suspect Night Order personnel have entered Blackwater Town and are now preparing to investigate. If no report is received in 3 hours, it means something has happened. Qingang City immediately held an emergency meeting upon receiving the report. Everyone present was shocked. They had only been out for less than a day, and with almost no intelligence support, just be able to find the body of the missing agent in the vast wilderness. They also preliminarily identified the location of the raider gang. This completely subverted their common sense. The Research Institute has always been unable to accurately determine Xion's power. Blackwater Town is located close to Qingang City, at least over 700 kilometers, and the single unit can arrive at that place within a day. It can only mean that he was going there from the start. They speculated that Xion either knew the Knights were in Blackwater Town or was just guessing. The professors analyzed to explain why Xion would go to Blackwater Town after those Knights entered the wilderness. Supplies are a big issue, so they must return to a suitable supply point. The only place that meets this condition to the south of Qingang City is Blackwater Town. Among them is a Puppet Classic Power user. The first stage of Puppet Classic Power user. The maximum number of puppets that can be controlled by a modified person is 10. 6 were destroyed when ambushing Jing Chen and Xion. Later, they found 3 under the southern wall. From this, it can be concluded that the mental remodeled person next to the Puppet Classic Power user is close to depletion. If supplies are needed, only the labor market in Blackwater Town remains. Can meet all their conditions, although can be explained by speculation, but still vaguely feel that Xion is supposed to go there from the beginning. Minister should issue the decisive order. Have the special task force rush to the outskirts of Blackwater Town immediately, and stand by 10 miles away. As soon as a distress signal is received, immediately launch an attack. When necessary, using long-range plasma weapons is allowed. Level Blackwater Town directly. Red moonlight shrouds the whole wilderness. An off-road vehicle drove into this brightly lit town. A row of fences stood in front of the rusty gate. The guard looked around vigilantly. Gecko showed the pass and claimed to be scavengers. Just passing through to rest a bit. The guard looked at the 2 geckos who were clean and did not look like scavengers. Gecko forcefully slapped the car door, pretending to be tough. We are here to scavenger hunt, not to collect junk. What's the deal? Do we have to roll in the mud to get in? The guard, seeing that the gecko appeared fearless, stopped questioning. As per the old rules, they could enter the town, but only with a handgun. There were 2 parking options: parking inside the town for 100 Alliance coins per day, or parking outside where nobody would be responsible in case of accidents. The gecko deliberately took out the handgun and gave the door 2 knocks. They decided to park inside to avoid having their tires removed by someone. The guard then smiled and had someone open the iron gate to let them in. Will it be safe to stop here? Xion, who has never left the city, is a bit worried. Gecko patted the car. You can rest assured. Our car is not something ordinary people can handle. At this time, Mom and younger sister had also gotten out of the car. Her gaze seemed to penetrate the walls and look into the distance. Be prepared. The bright-eyed 17 is already excited. Mom smiled and looked towards Xion. We're already very close. This is a town without legal constraints, since the arrival of the Red Moon. As long as you have money, you can buy all kinds of goods you want. Young men and women or middle-aged laborers. Here the price is clear. Xion and the group came to the labor market in Blackwater Town to track the Night Order. On the road, they saw vendors promoting firearms suitable for banditry. They also saw snake-headed women and various other monsters mutated after disasters. They were imprisoned in tanks and used as money-making tools. There was a heavily made-up woman smoking a cigarette, calling out to passers-by on the street. Try it out. Good service. Beside her, A slender young man was also shouting, "Try it! Free fruit platter!" Exion, feeling a bit embarrassed by being observed, asked Gecko what they were doing. Gecko forcibly suppressed the desire to experience, and casually mentioned that they were selling newspapers. The two of them discussed how to properly handle the situation when they find members of the Night Order later. According to the information Gecko has, they believe they should first inform a guy named Lord Snake, who is the big shot in Blackwater Town, and has a lot of business dealings with Qingyang City. It is expected that they will cooperate with him. However, Gecko is also unsure, as these people are all motivated by money. If they have ties with those power users, it could potentially alert them if they act rashly. Exion watched the figure of his mother in the distance, and ultimately decided to approach them first to discuss. Here, guided by the mother all the way, she turned back with a smile and pointed to a spot for Exion. It is a chess room. Exion immediately called for Gecko to go in and take a look together. Just as they entered the lobby, they saw a young girl wearing a swimsuit, walking around the chess room with a glass of wine in hand. Various noisy sounds filled the eardrums, and at this moment, Mom stood at the doorway of the innermost room. Although this is Gecko's favorite place usually, this time there was no usual playful smile on Gecko's face. His expression was tense as he looked at Exion to confirm if this was the place. "Do we need to customize any plans?" Mom still had a smile on her face, elegantly pointing to the closed room next to her. Exion instantly understood what Mom meant. The night group in Qingyang City killed so many people. It is very likely inside this door. No need to make plans. With one kick, he sent the door flying. The sudden scene made the people playing cards in the room slightly stunned. Exion, who broke in through the door, glanced at them all. Finally, he locked on to the man in red suit, who was holding up the cards high. Exion looked at him like this. A smile appeared on his face. "You finish playing this card first. I am not in a hurry." One of the rough men suddenly looked ferocious, possibly due to losing money. He directly cursed at the kind-faced Exion, saying, "Who the hell let you guys in? Don't you know I am playing cards here?" While cursing, he reached out to pull out the pistol hidden at his waist. The Gecko following behind Exion was already poised and ready. The man had not had a chance to raise his gun yet. A cold dagger appeared before his throat before he knew it. The hot-tempered man was instantly stopped. Gecko quickly pulled out a gun and aimed at the others in the room, asking coolly which one was Exion, or were they all Exion, with a poised finger on the trigger. Exion remained silent, still gazing at the man in the red suit in front of him. There's no need for Mama to point it out. He can recognize that the person in front of him is one of the targets this time without any guidance. Because his smile feels familiar to Exion. He looks a lot like the cyborg from 17, who had their heads smashed in previously. 3 points. I win. Facing Exion's gaze, the man in the red suit smiled as he set down the cards in his hand. He then looked at the Gecko and Exion in front of him, and with a smile asked, "Who are you guys?" Exion knows that the man in the red suit recognizes him. "Therefore, I do not want to answer this question. I am here to take you back. You better not resist, because I plan to bring you back alive. Only after you have been interrogated and convicted will I kill you. It will make more sense this way. But because I have no experience fighting against a power user, I am worried that by the time I catch you, you may already be dead." The man in the red suit chuckled even more after hearing this. No wonder the boss is so careful. 2 hands slowly reached out, as if to have Exion put handcuffs on him. The quiet surface already hides a deadly intent. Beside the man in the red suit, the two suddenly drew their guns at the same time. They cunningly aimed at Gecko and Exion respectively. Not honest. Gecko calmly waved the gun in his hand. 2 loud bangs quickly rang out. One shot hit a person's forehead, while another hit someone's shoulder. In terms of speed, their actions were clearly no match for Spider Classic's Gecko. Just when they thought the situation was under control, the man in the red suit suddenly burst into laughter. He quickly moved his fingers. The red spiritual threads seemed to be connected to something. The gecko sensed something was wrong at the very first moment. Two people who were shot lay collapsed on the ground, suddenly opening their eyes. Acted at an extremely fast speed. Watching the bizarre movements of the man in the red suit, the two men who were shot seemed unscathed. Gecko immediately reminded Xian loudly. This is a mentally reformed person.